All right, we're recording. So I sent out an announcement for test one. As we sort of said, when do we want it to be? And at first, a couple of people wanted it later. And then a bunch of more people said they wanted it next Friday. So that will be, it will be, the test is going to be like a lab or a programming homework where I say, here's a scenario, this is what I wanted to do. And you will code it, and that will be in this sort of Friday period of 50 minutes. I can give you a little more time at the end, but that's a little more time, like 5 to 10 minutes, not in a definite amount of time. You're allowed to use all your labs and any instructions, any example labs, and so on. That so homework, lab, anything that we've done before, examples you're allowed to use during the test. So it's not the kind of test where you just can't remember something or did the calculation wrong. It is, you should know exactly what you are to do, but you will run out of time. So many of you won't run out of time, but that's typically what happens if somebody doesn't do well, is that they ran out of time. And then you should make sure you get all of the easy points for title and header and comments. And if I say to clear something, even if you don't have the something, write the code to clear something, and so on. Collect all the easy points before you get all hung up on one thing you can't do. If you've written some code and you think it's worth credit, then you should comment it out. I give some points for what I'll call syntax. So that means, does your program have any errors? And so if you have some code that you think is worth partial credit, but it's giving you an error that should be commented out, then you will get credit for as close as it is. And you won't lose credit for bad syntax because it's causing an error. So there is a little sort of some technique in taking these tests. Questions? Anything? See me Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, so you'll have plenty of time for questions. The last homeworks, the labs 1 through 4, and all their various pieces. It's lab 4 is nominally due Tuesday and homework 4 nominally due Monday. But if I get them before Friday, just before midnight, they'll still be eligible for full credit. But you want them done before the test. They're practice for the test. You're allowed to use them on the test. So it's better to have it done well in advance. Okay. Any questions? So we started a problem on Wednesday that we only sort of really got barely started on. And so we were guessing a number. So if you don't have that and want to code along today, there it is under Wednesday. We're going to continue on. I posted 2 other things. I have a video on HTML entities and some code and a video on images, creating images that weren't on the page to begin with, and some code for that. I'll go over that at the end, depending on how long this program we're writing takes. But on the sort of restaurant review slider program, I said one thing you could possibly do is in your comment on whether it was a good rating or a bad rating or a so-so rating is have an emoji. And I meant it to be an HTML entity emoji. So that's why I have the first one there to show you what that means and how to play with them. But there are also emojis which are image files. And so some people thought that's what I meant. And then so they asked a question about how to add an image to a page if you don't already have an image on the page. And so I make, in this other example here, I sort of say, if there is an image already on the page, how do you change its source? That we've already seen. But if there's not an image on the page, how do you add it? And so I have those. So I will, they're there. If I get to them today, okay. If not, they're there for you to look at. They're not like the main topic. They're just sort of a side thing. Okay. So where's my code? Here's my code. I'm back on guess a number from Wednesday. What did we have? We had a page, then prompts the user to enter a number between 1 and 100. I'm guessing 187. And that's no good. And if I said a new game, it says hi. I think our number was 23. And if I guess exactly, it tells me I won. So we weren't very far along in this. All right. So people showed up a little bit late. If you want to make sure I get you for attendance, then make sure you tell me at the end that you were here. All right. So we had 2 buttons. To each button had an on click calling a function. We got the guess off of the page. We parsed it as an integer, and we asked if it was equal to the target. Then we alerted that you won, and we put it into the what we were calling the history. So your guess of 23 was right. And there it is again, and there it is again. Okay. I think I might want some space here between my history and my second button. So I'm going to put a break in there. All right. So we need the rest of our if structure. So if we got the target, we were saying that we're done, and we're putting that winning into our history. But now we want to do, we said there were 3 categories: higher, you're too high, or you're too low, or you got it. And you went after you got it. So now we want to do the next, we have to ask another question. To break something into 3 categories, you have to ask at least 2 true or false questions. And so we need our next question. If you're less than or greater than, you're not equal to. So this is a mutually exclusive category. So I'm going to do it as an else if. There's my parentheses for asking the question and my curly brackets to say what I want to do when that is true. And now I need the question. What question do you want to ask here? What's that? We're into the losing part, but I want to know which way. I want to know if I was too big or too small. So I need a question to distinguish between too big and too small. Okay, again? Guess is greater than target. So let's see what that gets us, okay? I have S, guess is greater than target. And then I'll have another else for that. Okay. So what do I want to do if guess is bigger than target? Do we want an alert, or do we just want something in the history? Just something, he doesn't want an alert, he just wants history. Okay, I'm going to copy my history because I'm lazy. But I have to change the message. And it says document get element by ID, div history.inner.html plus equal means that we are adding to what we already have. And then what does it say? There was some break at the beginning, and it says your guess of guess was, and it's not right now. So what is it? Your guess was too high. And then what in the else down here? So I don't have to ask. I had to ask two questions. I had three possibilities. Three. I can win. I can be too high. I can be too low. Those are my three categories. To break myself into three categories, I need two questions, two true-false questions. I've asked my two true-false questions. I don't need to ask any more questions. So the last one is just an else. A lot of you keep sort of like throwing in one more question than you need. Get over that habit. It's a bad habit. So then I'm going to copy this. Paste that in there. Let me format it, make it nice looking. And this one was too low. Okay, let's see where we're at. So enter your guess. I'm going to say 50. And my guess of 50 was too high. So I'll go for, I don't know, 25. And my guess of 25 was too high. And I'm going to go for 13. And my guess of 13 was too low. So maybe I'll try, I don't know, I'm losing track of my strategy here. Let's go with 18. That was too low. 21. That was too low. And 23. Finally 1. Okay. So we've got the history by appending. We have to code a new game. I want to count the number of guesses. So I want this to say, 1, your guess of 50 was too high. 2, your guess of 25 was too high. 3, I want to be counting the guesses. So tell me what to do. If I want to sort of, in my history, include the count of the guess. I want to be counting the guesses. So in this history, I want to say 1 period, your guess, and then 2.
If or else if we will need some number. And then
I need a number.
At the end of the, not number, some let variable.
I want some variable.
And at the end of else or else if you will say that variable plus.
So I need to have a variable that's going to hold this number, and I am going to increment it when they're guessing or when they're guessing incorrectly or what have you. I need to, you said let. You said I want to declare this variable with a let. And my question is where?
Outside the all if.
Outside the ifs.
Okay.
So here.
Here enter.
Okay. All right, almost right. All right. So what do you want to say? Number or guess number or count, or what do you want to call it? Count. And what do you want it to start at? 0. And
You go into the if.
And go into the if.
And for that you say count plus.
After all of them?
No. Every one.
If I do it in every, which one of them, it's the same as doing it outside of the if. If I do it in every branch, I can do it above or below. If I'm increment in one branch, but not in not in another, then it's worthwhile putting it in the if. But if I'm going to increment in every one of them, then there's no if about it. You want me to put it at the end? Plus, plus, you say. That's a shorthand for saying add one to it, make it the new count. And then I need to put it into my, I wanted to incorporate it here into my display. So I'm going to say a break plus the count plus, and then I'll put in here a dot and space. And that I'll do for each one. What I could do if I were smarter than I am, but I'm not, what I could have done was say, had a variable called the state or something like that, and just made the state right or too high or too low, and then done my writing once. If I'm going to take my idea that you shouldn't do the count in each if, I can also do my printing outside of the if and just change the one thing that changes in my print. That would have been smarter on my part, but. So I corrected you, but I should correct myself. Okay. But I won't. I don't know. I'm lazy. So let's see. This doesn't work, but let's see it not work. It's an experimental science, this computer science stuff. So what is my guess? My guess was 50. And it says it's the 0th guess. That's one problem. 25. That's also the 0th guess. Okay, let's make the count equal 1. That will solve one of my problems. So make the count 1 was the suggestion, so 50. 1, your guess, so that's all one of my problems, that the first guess is 1. But my second guess is also 1. The count plus. So it's an experimental science, I say. Let's see if the count plus works by alerting it out. So here is my guess of 50. And there is the 2, which is the count. So it incremented. And then it went back to 1.
It works, but that time we press the button, the count is always 1. And
that's right. The letting count equal 1 is in the check function, which is called when we click the button. So every time we click the button, we are set back to 1.
Input that is invisible to HTML to the user and in it and then take it back. It's complicated.
You're making it too hard.
Yes.
I don't put it in the start function. Put it in the start function. That's a good idea. There's only one problem with that, but I like it, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to take your idea, then I'm going to take your idea. Put it above the function. So I'm going to put it above the function. Please hold on to your idea. We need it. But we're not starting with start. So he says, put it above. And yes, I don't have a blue one, so I've saved. Here's my 50. Now we're 2. Now I'm a 5. Okay, and I don't want that alert anymore. So if you want something to be remembered from one event to the next event, you cannot declare it inside the function called by that event, because then you're making it all new. If you want to make it all new, then you do put it there. If you want it to be remembered and not new, then you must put it outside of the function. Or you could do things and put it on the page and hide it on the page, and yes, those things can be done and will work if done correctly. And you're going to remember that we do, when we hit the start button and call the start function, have to set this count back to 1. That is something we need to do. But we can't declare it in start, because then only start will understand it. So it needs to be understood above, outside. It will need to be understood by check and not forgotten when we hit check again. And it will need to understood by start, because when we hit start, we were going to want to set it back to 1. So we need to remember it from one click to the next, and we need to have access to it in 2 different functions, the check function and the start function. So that's 2 reasons why it should be up here. Our target was up here because it also needs to be remembered from click to click. Did it start at 2?
Yeah.
I have to look. Oops. 50. No, it started at 1. Well, I wanted to go to 2 if I go to the next one. There are times when we'll start if you put the count, before the ifs, rather than before, if you put the count before the printing, the count plus the increment, if you put it before the printing, then you will start it at 0. So it makes, there are situations in which you would start at 0, but not this one. All right. What else do we want in this program?
Can we do like the number, it remembers it, and if we are close to the number, we will see a message, you're close, so you're far from the.
So you want some, not just high or low, but like you're close. Okay, well, what the hell does close mean?
Because
you need to define close.
The number is, yes, 23, like your.
But I need a definition. I need to say, if I'm within 3, I'll call that close.
Yeah, but if the number is, let's say 10, or original number, and you guess 5, it wouldn't say anything. But if you guess 6, then it say you're getting closer. So if you guess 4, then you're getting farther.
Oh, so you want not. So it's going to be based on the history, like you're getting closer.
Yes.
All right. Like if they're not getting closer with these hints of too high or too low, then it's a dumb user. But okay, we can do something like that. So you're not saying I was pushing you towards like, if I'm within 3, I'm going to call that close. You don't want that. You don't want close, you want closer.
Hmm.
So you want some difference between, you want to keep some track of some difference between what the person guessed and the target. And if that difference gets smaller, you will say you're closer. And if not, okay, we can do that. Now that I understand your definition, I can't.
Help the user.
Okay, I don't think the user should need more help, but we will help the user. All right, why not? So I need to remember some difference. I have some previous difference, and then I'm going to have some sort of new difference, but I'm going to have to remember the original difference to compare it to the new difference. And so, again, we're going to need to remember something out here. So I'm just going to call it diff because it's too hard to spell otherwise. And I don't know the diff at this stage, so I'm not going to set it to anything. And, or do I want to set it to like 100 or 50 or, well, okay, I can't do anything. My problem is the first guess. What am I going to do on the first guess when I have nothing to compare it to? Well, I can do that. Okay. So if the count, and I'm doing it before I increment, if the count is 1 is not equal to 1, I'm going to do something. If it's the first one, there's nothing for me to do. Well, let's do it. If it's 1, if the count is 1, that means it's the first guess. Then what are we going to do? If it's the first guess, I'm going to figure out my difference, which is going to be a subtraction. Difference is, which way do you want to subtract? Target minus guess or target minus guess? Okay. So all I can do on the first guess is just say, here's the difference. On the else, if it's not the first guess, then I'm going to do some new difference or difference 2 or something like that, and then get that and compare it to the old diff. Absolute value?
Yeah.
Do we? Okay. Let's go for it. Why not? I have to do some math library stuff today anyway, because we want to be able to get a new round and pick a new random number, pick a new number randomly. All right, so I'm just going to call it diff2 or diff new. I'll call it diff2. That's easier to spell. And that's going to be target minus guess. And then, all right, so he wants to know, are we getting closer to where we were before? So we're going to compare the absolute value of diff2 to the absolute value of diff to see if that's gone down, if we are indeed closer to the number than we were before. So here we go, more ifs. So if math, I'm going to do some math, so I have to call what's the math library. Dot ABS is the absolute value. So if the absolute value of diff2, the new one, is less than the absolute value, The diffs could be positive or negative. That's why the absolute value. So if diff2, absolute value, is less than diff, if the new one is less than the old one, he wants to say closer. I'll put it in an alert. We could make a place on the page if we wanted to, or add it to the message, but I'm just going to make it an alert closer. And then I'm going to have an alert, I don't know, farther. And I have to make, for the next round, I have to make diff equal to target. For the next round. Just going to work? I don't know. So we calculate a difference on the first round. If it's not the first round, we calculate a new difference. We compare those and say whether we are closer or farther. And then for the next round, we calculate diff as the new thing. Let's see. And we know the answer is 23. That's going to help us. Okay. And I don't have a blue one, so I must have saved. Okay. So we know the answer is 23. What do you want as a first guess? 10. So your first guess of 10 was too low, and we were 13 away. So what do you want to do as your next guess? He wants 11. It's closer, which it is, and then it's still too low. So let's go high, but way too high. So I don't know, 75. And that was farther. And too high. But now that, do you want, oh man, here we go. Crazy, crazy crap that you sent me down this crazy hole. We could keep track of the closest you've ever been versus how I'm just keeping track of the last step. You are closer. When I say you're closer or farther, I mean than your last guess. But we could keep track of this is the closest you've ever been, because now we're farther away than we were before. But enough down that rabbit hole. Okay. Because I have to finish making a new game. Is there anything with this round that we want to do yet? The reset is the new game. That we need to, we're going to do a new, that will be in start. That'll be the new game. Is there anything in this round? Do we want to disable the start button when, or disable the guess button when they got it? He says yes. So that's easy enough. We have a place for that. Here's where they guessed. And we know how to disable a button, a document. Get element by ID. Parenthesis, quote, what was the ID of the guessing button? Button check. Was the ID, where the hell am I? There I am in line 38. There is a disabled property, and I'm going to set that equal to true. So when I guess, it should say that the button is disabled, so they're not going to guess anymore. So my first guess was 50, and that was too high. And then I'm guessing 25, and that's closer, but it was still too high. And then I'm going to guess 12, and that was farther away, and was too low. So now I know that I was closer on 25. I'm between 25 and 12 and closer to 25. And then it was 23 was the answer. And I got it. And I'm closer, obviously. And now that button is disabled. Okay. Now to hit the new game. We want to start the new game. Right now, all the new game does is says hi. We want to start coding start. So what do you want to do in start? Make the button so I can click it again, or it's not going to be a very fun game. Can you just refresh the page? I won't get a new number the way we've written it. So hold on to that question and we'll see. Okay, but I was looking for this. Let me line things up a little bit better, and let me get this and put that down here. And I want it to be false this time. So I want to be able to, when they start a new game, enable the button or set the disable property to false so then we can play more. We're going to try to get a new random number. We're going to put it here. Maybe we'll look at his question of, can we just make the page refreshed? And there are ways to do such things. Okay, so what? We want a new random number between 1 and 100. Okay, so how do I do that? Okay, so what did I call it? I called it, I think, target, right? Target. And it's a math thing, so I start with math. It is a random thing. Random is a random number. Computers don't really do random numbers, but we call them pseudo-random numbers. But it gives you some number between 0 and 1. I'm going to multiply that by 100. That's going to give me a number between 0 and 100. I'll never get to 100. This number is not an integer. This number, math.random, was not an integer. It was between 0 and 1. That's not an integer. I multiplied it by 100. Now it's got a whole number part, but it's also got a fractional part. So it's still not an integer, not a number, not a counting number. So I am going to do another math thing. You know a different way to do it. You know parse int. That would be a way to go. But I'm going to use the math library. There's something called a floor, which is take the whole number part. So I do the parentheses first. That's how things work in math land. And I get a random number between 0 and 1. I multiply it by 100. I get a random number between 0 and 100. I never quite hit 100. And I take the floor of it. I take just the whole number part. That is a number between 0 and 99. I don't want a number between 0 and 99. I want a number between 1 and 100. So I add 1. So I take math random. I multiply it by how many numbers there are. There were 100 numbers. I take the floor of it, and then I add the lowest number. The lowest number was 1. So I'll say it here. Multiply by the, I don't know, number of numbers. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. I don't know. The number of digits in the range or something. I don't know. The number of numbers. So that was 100. And then add the lowest number from the range, which was in our case 1. So that gives us a random number that we don't know. That makes our debugging harder, but the game more interesting. You can't follow what I'm doing up here because if you are running yours, your number is different than mine. There are ways for us to what we call seed the random number generator. I can say, I want to do this type of random number. And if you seed it and I seed it and we seed it in the same way, then we will get the same numbers. But if you don't do that, then it uses a seed based on the clock. And the chances that you pressed yours at exactly the time that I pressed mine is very unlikely. So we will probably have different seeds.
That's very close to the thing. Doesn't make sense.
So we should clear out the history.
Not clear out the history.
And clear out the difference. Yes. So we reset the target. We should make a new difference or set it to some really, really big number or something like that. And then also clear out our history. So his difference, diff, so count. So we have a new target. We should have a new diff. We should have a new count. I'm back to you finally. Did you remember? Oh, yeah. So we have to set a new count. We have to set a new diff. We have to clear out our history. All sorts of good stuff. So let's set the count back to 1. Let's set the diff just to something really big. I don't know, 999. Just so long as it's some really big thing. And it's not, I don't know that we have to do that because on the first guess, you only get a new diff. So that's probably skippable because of the count thing. So we probably don't need the diff. We do need the count. And we need to clear out our history because we're starting again, so we have no history. And this time we don't say plus equal because plus equal means add to what you already have. We don't want to add to what we already have. We want nothing. So what did we do on start? We enable the button so we can check and play the game some more. We got a random number between 1 and 100. We set our count back to 1. We set our difference to 999. We probably didn't need to. And we cleared out our history by setting it equal the inner HTML of that div to quote, quote. Let's see what happens. All right, guess a number. I'm going to say, and this first number is 23. We still know that. So there's 50. First number was 50. I'm already tired, 23. And I won, and I was closer, and there it is, 23 was right. The button is disabled. One thing I didn't do, we're going to see it right away. You're going to yell at me. I'm going to hit new game. I cleared out the history. I re-enabled the button. I have a new random number. I didn't clear out their guess. So let me clear out their guess. So what is their guess? Here's, where am I getting their guess? Here's their guess. Document, get element by ID. Clear out the history, clear out the old guess, document get element by ID, text guess, the dot value equals also quote, quote. If I want to be nice and I want to put my cursor in the box so they can enter their new guess. And how do I do it? Yes. Yes.
Focus.
Dot focus. Okay. I can just say dot focus. So I'm going to grab this line. I'm going to put it here. And I'm just going to say focus. Focus method. All right, let's see how we're doing. 23. I won. New game, got rid of the 23, got rid of the history, re-enabled check guess, okay. 50. 50 was too high. 25. Oops, I hit the wrong button. I'm really messing up. I should have had a, if it's not a number, so let me fix that. That was up here. If is an guess, if the guess was not a number, alert, enter a number, and get the hell out of there, return. Games turn you into good interface programmers because the game's no fun if your interface is bad. This game's not that much fun anyway, but. So if I don't put something in the box, it yells at me. And if I put 50 in the box, okay. 25 was closer, 23, I got it. And now I'm going to do a new game, and now I don't know what the number is. So 50 was too high. 25 is closer and too low. So it's not 23 because 25 is too high. So I don't know, 33. And I'm closer and it's too low. So I keep going up. I hate this game. Okay. So that is our game. And I'm out of time. Things we can still consider. what if I want a random number when the game starts instead of our 23? And his question about, can I just refresh the page? So maybe another time, I'll probably forget, but if you ask me, we can look into those things on Monday. You're also going to look at some homeworks and some labs and see where you stand for the test. So you're asking questions you need to ask before the test. All right. I'm going to.
Our test is gonna have everything we did till this point.
No, it's all. So if you came in late, make